coming up on Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen.
The three main reasons that couples divorce are sexual problems, I'm not getting my needs met, and money problems. But that's actually the reason that God made marriage. The power of marriage is remembering the core. I want to talk to you about the meaning of marriage. Now, if I came to you, most people, and I said to you, what does marriage mean? Most people cannot answer that question. In the eyes of the state, when you stand and you get married, what does that mean? You will know in just a few minutes the meaning of marriage and the importance of understanding what it means. Listen, how can you succeed if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish? And so we need to understand the meaning of marriage and what we're trying to accomplish, what God's trying to accomplish in our marriage. How to experience lasting passion and intimacy. Marriage gets better every year when you do it right. When you do it wrong, it gets worse every year. And so, again, you may have been married for a year or two or 18, and maybe the sizzle has gone out of your marriage. You can get it back. You can get it back in a very short period of time. We went from smack out of love to in love in a few weeks when we began to change the way that we were married. But listen to this other thing. I want to talk to you about how to have a win-win relationship. In a biblical marriage, there is no loser. If there's a loser in the relationship, it is not a biblically based marriage, because God created marriage to be a win-win situation for men and women. And I want to just talk to you about the power of marriage, how it communicates God's love to our children. And that's what we need to do, is to show our children. How can our children succeed unless we show them how? And so we want to show them a godly marriage. And it's one of the most important things that we do. Now, Ephesians 5 is the most important text in the world concerning marriage. Nowhere in the world do you see a place where marriage is explained to us as explicitly as it is in Ephesians 5. And Paul says, "For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother, be joined to his wife, and they two shall become one flesh." This is a great mystery. And really what he's saying is it was a great mystery until now. But he's saying, I'm speaking concerning Christ and the church. "Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband." So the Apostle Paul is saying, when you're married God's way, the man is a Christ-like husband, and the woman is a Holy Spirit-like wife. She's respecting her husband, and he's sacrificially loving her, and that's the way that it should be. Well, when Karen and I, we were wounding each other. But what happened when we began to understand God's plan for marriage is we stopped hurting each other and we started healing each other. Now listen, if marriage is supposed to be a picture of Jesus in the church, is Jesus our herder or is Jesus our healer? Well, he's our healer. Is the Holy Spirit our herder or is the Holy Spirit our healer? Well, he's our healer. And so when you're married the wrong way, you wound each other. A lot of people flinch when they hear the word marriage. A lot of people don't want to be married because they've seen so much damage and so much wounding in marriage. To them, marriage is just a painful word. When Karen and I changed the way that we related to each other, we started healing each other. I mean, it's literally the opposite. You married your healer. And that's the reason it's a picture of Christ in the church. A good marriage is more attractive than you can possibly realize. We asked this question one day, and this is an interesting thing to ask. Who do you know that has a really great marriage? And a lot of people can never think of anyone in their life, in their family, or their circle of friends that had a really great marriage. Let me tell you what that means. That means if you need help, you don't know where to go. But when you ask that question, who do you know that has a really great marriage? If you can answer that question, there's hope for your marriage, because that's who you're going to go to. And when people around us began to see, and we're not special in any way, we almost divorced. It was the grace of God that kept. I was a divorce waiting for a place to happen. But when people began to see our marriage, it gave them hope. And they began to come to us and ask us questions. And again, it just kind of threw us off. But here's another thing that happened when our marriage changed. It changed the legacy for our children. Our my mom and dad were married for 60, and I'm not saying this with any pride, I'm saying it with thankfulness. My mom and dad were married for 61 years when my dad died. Karen's mom and dad have now been married for 61 years. We've been married for 40 years. Our children have both been married for now over 10 years. How many of you want to leave a legacy of marriage for your children? And it's never too late. You may have been divorced 2 or 3 times. It's never too late. You can begin right now to leave. It's worth anything you give. That's what I'm trying to say. Anything that you would do to make marriage work. And so God has a plan for your marriage. It will be a win-win deal. And you say, what does marriage mean? In the eyes of God, in the eyes of the state, what is it that, what are we trying to accomplish when we stand in front of a preacher or whoever and we're married? What is it? There are three things that happen when we get married. Number one is financial unity. The state or the country, for those of you who are in different countries, when you get married, what the state is saying is, we now see you as one financially. You're one financial unit. Before, we saw you separately. You pay taxes separately, and if one of you died, you were not entitled to the other person's property. But now that you're married, we see you as one financially. The second thing is you're next of kin. Listen, you are now closer to them than you were to your parents. And the Bible says a man shall leave his father and mother. And by the way, God said that over Adam, and Adam didn't have a mother. Adam and Eve didn't have belly buttons. They were created first generation by God. And so God was saying marriage will not work unless you leave your mother and father, which just simply means reprioritize them, not to abuse them or anything. Just, reprioritize your mother and father and cleave unto your wife, okay? You've heard the saying that blood is thicker than water. And we hear that saying, and it's kind of like, if a fight breaks out, choose blood. Your blood kin, okay? Well, let me give you another way to think of this. Blood may be thicker than water, but spirit is thicker than blood. And Jesus said, what God has joined together, let not man separate. When you get married, God joins you. When Adam saw Eve, God put him to sleep, took a rib out, created Eve, and he looked at Eve and said, this is bone of my bones. This is flesh of my flesh. And that's what happens when you get married. You are now family. You're more family than any family you've ever had. And again, this is an extremely important thing to understand. The third element of marriage is sexual exclusivity. And what that means is that we are now exclusive sexual partners. And by the way, sex is the only exclusive area of marriage. You spend money with other people, you talk with other people, you may pray with other people, worship with other people, interact with other people, but you shouldn't have sex with anybody else. It's one of the essential elements of a good marriage is sexual faithfulness. Okay, so let me talk for just a minute about these 3 areas. Finances. We are financial partners in everything each of us does, whether good or bad, affects the other. So now we're a partnership, we're a team. And we have to understand that we're trying to, people get married, and by the way, people who are married are better off financially than people who aren't, almost all the time. Marriage is the greatest wealth-producing entity on earth. Okay, but you have to do it right, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. We're next of kin, and what that means is I am primarily taking responsibility for you. You may have had other people, before we got married, you may have had mother, father, brother, sister, aunts, uncles, grandparents, someone else before this marriage was primarily responsible for you. But here's what I'm saying in marrying you. I am now, until we die, I am now primarily responsible for taking care of you. I am assuming that responsibility. And that's what this marriage means. We're family. You're bone of my bone. Number 3, sexual exclusivity, which means we belong to each other and I will be faithful to you and I will be careful and accountable. And it also means I will fulfill your sexual needs. I am taking responsibility. Now, 1 Corinthians 7, the Apostle Paul, this is one of the most astounding scriptures in the Bible. The Apostle Paul says when you get married, you don't have authority over your own body. Your spouse does. Not for the sake of abuse, but for the sake of use. In other words, you can't use your body as a weapon. You can't withdraw sexually from your spouse to punish your spouse They have a right of use of your body sexually when you get married. That's what marriage means. What does marriage mean? It means we're next of kin, we're financial partners, and we belong to each other sexually. And I will keep myself unto you alone sexually, and I will meet your needs. And your needs are not my needs. No two people have exactly the same sexual needs. And to meet each other's sexual needs, it means you're meeting the need in another person that you don't necessarily have. And the timing is typically not the same. And so this is what marriage means. And so if you're going to have a good marriage, the core has to be there. And the issue is it all has to be there. If any one of these begin to suffer, the marriage can suffer. In fact, it's an interesting thing. Do you realize that the three things I just mentioned, money, met needs, and sex, are the three reasons we get married and the three most powerful elements of marriage, and they're the three main reasons we divorce? The three main reasons that couples divorce are sexual problems, I'm not getting my needs met, and money problems. But that's actually the reason that God made marriage. The power of marriage is remembering the core. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? Listen to me. You got married, whether you realize it or not, you got married so you could share your finances and have an economic blessing, so you could meet each other's needs and be fulfilled in life, and so you could have a faithful sexual partner for the rest of your life and get your needs met. That's why you got married. That's the prize of marriage. That's the goal line. But you have to have all three. And so let me talk about some of the challenges of this issue of how to preserve the core, because this is what's going to make a good marriage. Let me talk about finances for just a minute. One of the biggest problems is prioritizing one over the other two. You have to have all three of them. Okay, and let me give you an example, is finances. Now, one of the questions that we got from you guys is, this is a question from a man, and here's what he said. I finally have my dream job, but my wife says I work too much and I'm never at home. How can I convince her that I'm doing this for the good of our family? And look, this is a virtuous guy. I mean, he's working hard. I mean, he says, I have my dream job, but my wife is complaining, and she's saying, I'm at work all the time, and I need to come home more. Okay, here's what he's done. He's chosen finances over met needs. And by the way, the number one reason for sexual dysfunction is stress and fatigue. People are just too tired. Let me tell you a saying that you need to probably write down and remember. If the devil can't get in front of you and stop you, he'll get behind you and push you too fast. Because we weren't designed to live under stress. We just simply weren't. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. Let me tell you, I know a lot of rich people have bad marriages. And I know a lot of people of very, very humble means that have great marriages. If you believe that money will solve all your problems, you're deceived. And by the way, here's what Jesus said. This is the parable of the sower in Mark chapter 4. He said, these are the ones sown among the thorns. They are the ones who hear the word, and the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, and the desire for other things entering in, choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. He's talking about a person producing fruit for God, and he's saying these people, the seed among the thorns, he says the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, and the desires for other things. The word cares there means anxious awareness. It means anxiety. It means you're just stressed out. You're going too fast. Now, here's another great scripture, Proverbs 22. The blessing of the Lord makes one rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. The blessing of the Lord. You say, well, we want to prosper. Great, I do too. Money's a wonderful thing. But do you want it to cost you your children? Do you want it to cost you your health? It's foolish. It's foolish. So I'm saying, don't choose money over your marriage. Don't choose money over being able to meet each other's needs. You may have less, but you'll have it in a more peaceful home. Okay. And that less won't be there for long, because God's going to bless you if you make good decisions. But the other thing is dominating any of those areas. The marriage only works when you share it as a partnership. Now, I was dominant in our relationship. I dominated Karen. And so I was a very dominant husband. We had a horrible marriage as long as I was dominant. And the issue is there's three kinds of differences in marriage. There are celebrated differences, tolerated differences, or rejected differences. And when your spouse, you're different. You're two halves of a whole. When you get married, you need your spouse's input to make a good decision. But when Karen and I married, I just thought she was weird. When she would say something, I'd roll my eyes, I'd call her stupid, and I tried to dominate the areas of our family. But my wife, men have half the brain, women have half the brain, together we have the whole brain. And in order to have a good marriage, it means we celebrate our differences. Do you know that you naturally celebrate your differences when you marry each other? When you meet and fall in love, you celebrate your differences. You look at each other and you say something different, you do what you do, and you celebrate it. You don't roll your eyes and say you're stupid. You never have gone out on a second date with someone who called you stupid on the first date. You're crazy, you're weird. You need some hormone adjustment, big time. Now we celebrate each other. Well, you're smart. Well, you're interesting. Wow, you're deep. If your spouse has to pay a price for sharing their opinion in your marriage, you're dominating the relationship. If your spouse doesn't feel freedom to share how they feel about any area of the marriage without paying a price, you're dominating the relationship. A good marriage just simply means we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about the kids. We're going to talk about how and where we worship. We're going to talk about, our relationship and all those things until we agree. Great marriages, we agree. And so the core of marriage is we're financial partners and we're going to agree on this. We're going to have a plan and we're going to sit down and talk and pray and we're going to agree. We're going to meet each other's needs. And our needs are very different from one another. In my Marriage on the Rocks seminar, I talk about that a lot. But we're very different from each other. And so the needs that your spouse has are not your needs. And so, but when I married you, I took responsibility to meet your needs. And sex is an important part of our marriage. And so I'm reserving my sexuality for you alone, and I'm committed to meeting your sexual needs. And if I'm not, you have an open door to tell me, and I will not make you pay a price. I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to withhold from you. And I'm saying to you, keep the core going. And when the devil attacks our marriages, typically what he'll do is he'll attack one of those areas. Let me go back to the question I said earlier about the guy that said, I finally have my dream job. Who cares if it's your dream job? It needs to be both of your dream jobs. If it busts your wife's dream, it's not your dream job. And for this guy, and I completely understand what he's saying. He's trying to be a good provider. If what I'm doing violates you, I won't do it. And I'm going to listen to what you're saying. Because our marriage isn't good until we're both saying it's good. It doesn't matter if the woman says it's a good marriage. It doesn't matter if a man says it's a good marriage. Do both of you say that? It's a win-win situation. So when you got married, regardless of you realize it or not, you became financial partners. You took responsibility as the closest family member that you have to care for each other in that regard, and you swore sexual exclusivity to your spouse. Okay. That's what keeps the core going. Well, I hope you enjoyed that teaching. We love bringing you this information. You can succeed in marriage. You have a 100% chance of success in marriage when you do it God's way. And that's good news. We need to hear that, especially in the culture that we live in today. God designed marriage to succeed, and every person can succeed in marriage just with the right information. And we have this information today. Now, what you saw on today's program, now that's just a small part of a fuller series of messages that we have called Sex, Love, and Communication. We want to put these into your hands. Now, we're a mission. Marriage Today, we come to you to minister to you. We go all over the world. We're in millions of homes in America every day in over 200 countries worldwide. And we need your financial support to be able to do that. But we want to get to you these important resources right now for your gift of any amount to support us here at Marriage Today. We want to put this booklet into your hands, Sexual Fulfillment in Marriage, the keys to sexual fulfillment in marriage. And this is a easy read with very powerful information to help you in the area of sex, your gift of any amount. For your gift of $45 or more, we want to get you the full seminar, Sex, Love, and Communication, on 4 CDs with the Sexual Fulfillment booklet. For your gift of $90 or more, we're going to get you the DVDs of the Sex, Love, and Communication seminar and the CDs and the Sexual Fulfillment book. This is powerful information, something that can bless you and maybe something that you would give to somebody else to bless them. We want to put this information into your hands, and here's how you can get it.
Sex, Love, and Communication. In this series, Jimmy Evans explains how these three work together to help you create a beautiful, passionate marriage. Support Marriage Today with your best online gift of any amount, and we'll send you Jimmy Evans' book, The Keys to Sexual Fulfillment in Marriage.
Sex tells us that our differences have a dynamic to them, and here's what male and female means. It takes two to make one.
Get your copy of the Sex, Love, and Communication series on CD and the book for your gift of $45 or more. For your gift of $90 or more, you'll receive the entire series on CD and DVD plus the book.
This tiny little thing laying between your teeth has the power to build a remarkable marriage and a remarkable family and a remarkable life.
Start talking and fall in love all over again. Get your copy of Sex, Love, and Communication today.
Well, we hope that this program is a blessing to you today. And, you know, this comes from the seminar, Sex, Love, and Communication. And we have some questions actually from our viewers, Karen, that we want to read.
She asks, my husband has determined there are a few subjects that are off limits because they always end in a disagreement. How can we resolve these issues?
Well, it's a great question. There are three types of communication. There's proactive communication, there's reactive communication, and there's radioactive communication. Okay, proactive communication means we're talking about this in advance and we're getting the emotion out of it. We teach people how to do a vision retreat. You get away for 3 or 4 days a year without the kids. You wake up in the morning and you pray and you talk, especially about the issues that you can't communicate about. Now, if it's really serious, you need to go get help. Go get a third party to help you work through it. You just can't have issues in your marriage you can't talk about. That's radioactive.
Oh, yeah.
Proactive communication is we're going to talk about this in advance. We might fight, but we're going to get it out of our system. We're going to find a place of agreement. Reactive communication is because we're not talking proactively and sitting down and talking patiently and having a vision retreat and finding a place of agreement. Now, every time this comes up, we're reacting, we're getting in fights, we're hurting each other, then it falls into the radioactive category. And radioactive means somebody's going to get hurt. You know, if this subject comes up now, early in our marriage, it was money. We couldn't talk about money. I mean, if money came up, it's going to get ugly real quick. It was a radioactive issue. Well, the problem is you spend money every day.
Yeah.
If you can't talk about the kids are there every day. And so her husband says, you know, we're not going to talk about this because we'll end up fighting. Okay, that's why you need to talk about it.
That's right.
And if you can't solve the problem yourself, going to get help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. And all successful people are teachable. If you're successful in money, it's because you're teachable about money, and people who are wealthy have financial advisors all around them. They're teachable. If you're successful in marriage, it's because you're teachable. And when you don't know something, you go get help. And so go get help, but don't let issues be in your relationship that aren't being resolved because they get worse over time.
Okay, my wife has a secret stash of fund money, and it bothers me that she does this. I want to share everything, and she likes having some areas separate.
Do you have some money?
Actually, I really do. Oh my gosh, I'm confessing. I had all these $1 bills. I didn't know what to do, and I stuffed them in a sock in my drawer, and it's like,
Which drawer? I want to know right now.
Well,
I cannot believe you did that.
Not.
Okay, let me say this. In marriage, one of the laws of marriage is the law of possession. God said, for this cause a man will leave his father and mother, cleave unto his wife, and they two shall become one. You have to share everything. And so he says his wife is hiding money. It's not good to take money in other words, it's like, this is my money. Nothing in my marriage is mine, okay? Is that when we get married, everything is now ours and we share it together. So for example, if I say, well, these are my kids, those are your kids, these are my kids, it'll destroy the marriage. This is my money. My uncle died and left me this money. It was my uncle, this is my money. When we got married, now it's my uncle, it's our uncle, it's our children, it's our home. So yes, he's going to resent her hiding money. If she comes up to him and says, honey, do you mind if I have a little savings over here so I can do this? No, go ahead. Now you agreed on it. But when you're sneaking around and you're taking money away from stuff like that, that's not good. That's not good for them. I want all that money. You're stealing.
You can have my dollar bills.
I want your sock drawer. I'm going to go home and go through all your drawers. And I want to know what you're hiding from me. Well, we hope that this program today has been a blessing. We're able to come to you because of our wonderful partners who stand with us financially. Television airtime is very, very expensive, but you're worth it. And we go across America to hundreds of millions of homes in America and around the world every single day, multiple times a day, because of people like you that support us financially. And we're asking you, if you would, please give to us to support Marriage Today, to help us, to help people succeed in their marriage and family relationships, and to help little kids stay together with their parents. Marriage is under attack in our society, and we are on the front lines helping people to succeed in marriage, to solve their problems, and to have the marriage of their dreams. There's a web address there you can give on our secure website. There's a telephone number you can call, use your bank card to give, and also our address is there. You can mail your gift in. We're asking you to give your most generous gift to help us here at Marriage Today. We hope that this has been a blessing to you today. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Going through divorce is a lot to ask of children and often results in years of emotional pain. It's a violent ripping apart of their parents and a sense of abandonment. What sometimes we see as a quick way out can mean complete loss for a child.
You have a 100% chance of success in marriage. You were made for marriage.
Marriage Today exists to protect children from the pain of divorce and to steer couples away from marital failure by telling them the truth. When you stand with Marriage Today, your individual effort multiplies with other like-minded partners, and together we can rebuild a legacy of strong families around the world. Choose your level of partnership today and receive immediate access to the video streaming library. Become a rock-solid partner today.
Thank you for watching Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen. Subscribe to Marriage Today's YouTube channel for more marriage-building videos and updates.